Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today, we're plunging into a stack of, well, truly unique sources.
Yeah, it's quite a collection.
It's an audio compilation, really,
Yeah.
of diverse news reports, observations, personal accounts. And when you stitch them together, they paint this vivid and sometimes pretty intense snapshot of our world.
Indeed. And our mission for this deep dive really is to act as your guides, helping you unpack all these different threads woven through the material. We're
Exactly.
looking at, massive global military movements, evolving societal threats, right through to revolutionary tech and even some unconventional beliefs.
All to see what nuggets of insight emerge for you.
That's the goal.
Yeah, this compilation. It's remarkable because stitching together these different reports, these personal stories, it just paints this picture of significant global shifts. And honestly, right out of the gate, what immediately jumps out is the sheer, almost overwhelming volume of military activity all over the globe.
It is striking. And what's fascinating here isn't just the scale, though that's huge, but the geographic spread
Hmm?
and how interconnected these exercises and tensions seem to be.
Right.
So, if we look at the Middle East, for instance, your sources talk about Thunder of the North,
Huge exercise.
massive hundreds of thousands of troops from 20 countries.
20. And then there's Turkey, right? A big NATO member mentioned again and again. They're
Mhm.
involved in, well, everything from operations in Syria to hosting their largest ever NATO exercises.
And ongoing exercises, too, related to the Kurds. Then you've got Iran and Russia flexing their military muscles north of Israel's border.
Which prompts Israel to respond with its own major military exercises, air, ground, sea, the works.
And it's not just regional powers. Germany sent military personnel, though Chancellor Merkel's been pretty mum on the details, according to the source.
Right, tight-lipped.
And France and Great Britain are flying aerial ops over Syria. Plus, the UK just had its largest drill since 2001, working alongside Jordan. It's a very crowded, very active picture.
Absolutely.
Right.
And it's not just confined to the Middle East, is it? The sources then shift us over to the Asia-Pacific.
Yeah, totally different region, same kind of intensity. India and Nepal coordinating military responses because of China's actions.
And China, in turn, running these huge exercises in the South China Sea explicitly to counter the U.S. military presence there.
And the tension, wow, it really ramps up with North Korea. Threats against South Korea, against the U.S.,
Leading to South Korea and the U.S. performing their largest ever naval and air simulations. The stated goal, destroying Pyongyang.
which predictably gets North Korea threatening more nuclear tests. You also hear about Vietnam running major naval exercises, and Thailand showing its naval operations with the U.S. in the South China Sea, which immediately got China and Cambodia running their own counter operations.
It's like a chain reaction. Taiwan's doing vast exercises too, air and sea. And Australia's military is apparently actively planning for a potential confrontation with China.
It really paints a picture of a region on a knife edge, just simmering.
Yeah. And from there, the material takes us again somewhere else, Europe and the Arctic. Russia's continuing aerial operations over Crimea, simulating bombings, operations involving Ukraine.
And Ukraine, understandably, is summoning reserves, starting huge military exercises, air and ground troops.
Meanwhile, Eastern European countries Latvia, Poland, Estonia, they're loudly calling for more NATO protection against Russia.
And the Nordic countries are doing some of their largest military exercises ever, directly responding to Russia. Russia apparently simulated a nuclear strike near Finland and violated airspace over Denmark, Netherlands, Finland, Norway.
Wow.
Yeah. And even Canada is mentioned, conducting Arctic missions. It highlights just how global these tensions feel.
And then there's this really fascinating, almost unsettling detail about the United States itself. The sources mention odd military exercises in several states, National Guards being called up.
There's a specific example given, Washington State. 6,000 military personnel called up to simulate an earthquake response. It's described as the largest simulation of that kind in Pacific Northwest history.
An earthquake response drill.
But interestingly, the sources then point to what they call an absolute blackout of military coverage for some of these domestic exercises. And this observation is followed immediately by this powerful, almost prophetic quote directly from the source audio. It asks, "Why is that?
Right.
We are in the year of light, and the world is going to war. It is from the ashes of chaos that their phoenix will rise, and from the ashes of their world we'll build a better one."
Wow.
Do you not think an angel rides in the whirlwind and directs this storm? It's quite a statement. It really invites you to look beyond just the troop movements, doesn't it?
It absolutely does,
Yeah.
suggesting some kind of I don't know, grander narrative emerging from all this instability.
Mm.
So, okay, after mapping out that incredibly dense landscape of military activity,
Mm-hmm.
the world feels very much on edge.
That's putting it mildly.
But what really comes through isn't just the scale, it's how connected it all seems. These hotspots aren't isolated.
Exactly. It feels like a world operating in this constant state of high alert, where things ripple outwards very quickly, maybe suggesting a more globalized, synchronized preparedness than we usually think about.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's not just about geopolitics, is it? Because the sources then pivot pretty sharply.
They do, to a different kind of societal tension, something equally compelling, but maybe closer to home for many listeners, the changing nature of mass violence.
And this is where it gets really interesting, how the sources don't just stop at global conflicts. They bring it right down to the community level, looking at this disturbing shift.
And it raises that crucial question. How do communities, how do authorities adapt when the threats themselves seem to be changing so dramatically?
Yeah.
Your sources mention a shooting during a family-studded Christmas gathering in Washington, and another one just days before that at a Colorado Planned Parenthood clinic, killing 3 people.
And the statistic given is stark. 375 people died in mass shootings this year alone, according to the source.
But here's the key distinction they highlight, and it really stood out to me.
What's that?
That previous shootings were often the work of lone gunmen. But what they're seeing now is described as organized, multiple offenders, mission-oriented shooting, with maximum lethality being the goal.
Organized, mission-oriented. That's chilling.
Yeah. The sources explicitly say it's different from anything we've seen before and more in line with what we saw in Paris. That suggests a fundamental change in the threat landscape.
And the frequency.
Yeah.
The sources say mass shootings have led the news, on average, once every 4 weeks since the Charleston church shooting the previous June.
That's relentless.
It is. And amidst all this, your sources include this really harrowing personal account of a shootout, a neighbor in their front yard, another hiding in his garage, the suspect's family just in disbelief. It makes it very real.
But even then, there's this powerful call for unity that gets highlighted.
Yes, our Islamic brothers and sisters are not at fault here. This certainly is not about the Muslim faith. We stand together. Muslims, Christians, Jews, people of all faiths. That speaks volumes, doesn't it? About community resilience.
It really does. And that connects directly to the community response itself. We hear about police departments actively teaching people how to react, how to survive an active shooter event.
This training is becoming more common.
Exactly. Police sharing their knowledge. And the sources note that even when they use fake bad guys, the intensity is very real. People are taking it seriously.
And we get specific examples, right? Like training in San Bernardino, or the Brown County SWAT team practicing at a rest center.
There's also a detailed description of the Nina hostage situation. Gunshots, a SWAT truck arriving, streets blocked off.
Ordinary people watching this unfold.
Business owners, residents, watching police take over the streets. People within a quarter mile told to barricade themselves after shots were fired at Eagle Nation cycles. 1 person died in that incident.
Tragic.
Yeah. But the source also noted that the great show of force from the local police departments actually made people feel safer amidst the chaos.
That must have been incredibly tense for everyone there. It really brings home the immediate impact of these kinds of threats, these new threats.
Absolutely. And the fact that communities are willing to do these intense drills, it shows this kind of sobering adaptation to a changed reality.
It truly is sobering. And, speaking of rapid adaptations, the sources then shift gears completely. They show us how technology is forcing us to adapt in a whole different arena.
Right. We go from global conflict and community safety to groundbreaking technology, stuff that, frankly, felt like pure science fiction not long ago.
And now it's science fact.
And if you connect this to the bigger picture, you see how quickly these tech advancements are pushing up against ethical boundaries, societal norms. It's happening fast.
So where do they start?
First up is CRISPR gene editing.
Ah, yes. Described as revolutionary technology that can edit genetic mistakes.
The potential is just mind-boggling, right? Helping us potentially get rid of diseases like cystic fibrosis, muscular dystrophy, HIV, maybe even cancer.
The idea being you can go in and snip out a piece of DNA and replace it with something that corrects a mutation, like a molecular surgeon.
Exactly. The developers mentioned are Jennifer Doudna from UC Berkeley and Emmanuel Charpentier. Doudna's become something of a scientific celebrity, even won the $3 million Breakthrough Prize.
But there are worries.
Big worries. Many scientists, including Debna herself, are calling for a moratorium on using it in humans. The fear, embryo editing that could lead to designer babies.
Designer babies. That's the classic sci-fi fear, isn't it?
It is, and this technology forces us right up against those fundamental questions about human intervention, about what we should do, not just what we can do.
Then we get into something called biointegrated technology, specifically tech tattoos.
Yeah, from a company called Chaotic Moon. These tech tats, as the source calls them, are biosensors that just rest on your skin. They're not injected.
Okay, so like a high-tech temporary tattoo.
Kind of. They have a tiny microcontroller for data storage, electroconductive paint to sense temperature.
And there was something about a light.
Yeah, an ambient light sensor that flips on an LED in the dark, making you kind of feel like a really awesome cyborg, as the source puts it.
Okay.
And it sends data via Bluetooth Low Energy to an app. The potential uses mentioned are things like tracking or even bio-NFC.
Near-field communication, like for payments.
Exactly. Turning that temporary tattoo into a payment portal you activate with a gesture, your skin becomes your wallet.
Wow. Okay, the implications there. Security, identity, that's a lot to unpack.
For sure. And finally, in the tech segment, we hear about the rapid spread of surveillance tech, especially facial recognition.
Right. There was an example of using it to fight shoplifters.
Yeah, a retired police major's idea for retailers. Using facial recognition software on a shared network, they apparently tested it on a CEO who was boxed in, identified in a tenth of a second.
A tenth of a second. That's incredibly fast.
And law enforcement is jumping on this too. Local police agencies expanding their use rapidly. More than twice as many devices deployed countywide compared to just a year before, according to the source.
Which naturally raises privacy concerns.
Big time. Privacy advocates worry it could become like those automatic license plate readers, just tracking everyone's movements everywhere, making anonymity basically impossible.
And it's not just faces, right? They mentioned other things.
Yeah, iris scanning is called out as a big one coming down the pike. And the Department of Homeland Security apparently has a tattoo recognition app.
Tattoo recognition.
Mm.
So our physical selves are just becoming more and more digitally readable.
That seems to be the direction.
Yeah. You know, from curing disease with CRISPR to maybe being tracked by our tattoos or faces.
Yeah.
What are your initial thoughts on this? The incredible promise versus the potential perils. It feels like that line between innovation and privacy is constantly being redrawn.
It really does feel like a constant push and pull, doesn't it? The tech offers so much potential good, but it absolutely demands we think carefully about the societal impacts.
And the speed.
The speed is the thing. Innovation seems to be outpacing our ability to set up clear ethical rules or regulations. So we're left grappling with these huge questions about identity, security, human nature, almost in real time.
That's a really clear way to put it.
Yeah.
Okay, and then finally, these sources, they take us into some truly unexpected territory. We touch on belief, prophecy, the seemingly inexplicable.
Yeah, this part reminds us that the human story isn't just about geopolitics and tech shifts. It also includes these deeply personal ways people interpret the world and moments that maybe defy easy explanation.
So where do they go first?
First, we hear about someone named Jaden.
Jaden, described as thinking of himself as a modern-day prophet. That's quite a claim.
It is. He apparently said, I don't think I'm as revolutionary as Galileo, but I don't think I'm not as revolutionary as Galileo.
Okay, quite the comparison.
And then there's an even more intriguing claim from the source material that Jaden has ties to people in other dimensions and galaxies who are actually helping him write these essays.
Other dimensions. Wow. Okay.
It's definitely out there. But it's presented just as an observation. I glimpse into the fringes of personal belief, maybe spiritual conviction. What's interesting is this idea that maybe profound insights could come from unconventional places, channels we don't fully grasp.
Absolutely. And then, in a completely different vein, there's the story about Pope Francis.
Right. A Pennsylvania couple credits Pope Francis with healing their baby daughter's brain tumor.
And they believe it happened after his visit to the U.S. in September, where he apparently touched many lives and kissed many babies.
Yeah. And here, the sources are touching on the power of faith, the human need for meaning, for intervention, especially when facing a crisis.
Whether you see it as a miracle or, say, a powerful placebo effect.
Exactly. It highlights the profound impact spiritual figure can have and these deeply personal, often inexplicable experiences that shape how people see the world. It's just a reminder that alongside all the data, all the military drills, all the tech, that human need for belief, for hope, it remains central.
So we've really journeyed through a varied landscape in this deep dive. Sometimes unsettling, definitely compelling information.
For sure.
From these huge global military movements and shifting societal threats, right through to cutting-edge tech and these deeply personal beliefs. These sources really offer a unique lens on our world.
This deep dive, I think, has shown us a world really grappling with immense forces, geopolitical, technological, even spiritual forces. And the source material itself, remember, it posed that profound question at one point.
Right. Do you not think an angel rides in the whirlwind and directs this storm?
Exactly.
Yeah, the sources consistently show this world in flux, pushing us, pushing humanity to adapt to new threats, amazing innovations, while we're still wrestling with these age-old questions of, fate and purpose. So as you consider all these different currents we've talked about, global movements, personal beliefs, tech breakthroughs, how do you see them connecting? And maybe more importantly, what new questions does pulling all this together raise for you about the path forward?